Hey guys, Sally here. I am the drone girl. As you know, I've been covering the industry for more than 10 years. And here in the US, there's something that's not required, but I get so many questions about, and that is drone insurance. That's why today I've brought on Leo Arnan. He is a product manager at SkyWatch, which is my preferred drone insurance company. They provide really flexible plans, which I like hourly, monthly, annually. So, depending on the way you fly, you can get a plan that works for you. If you're filming weddings with a drone and you have just one a month, maybe the hourly plan works for you just for that ceremony. And then people who are flying for regular mapping projects every day might want that annual plan. So, I am really curious what people should know about drone insurance. I get so many questions, so honestly, I'm just passing this off to you. So, Leo, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us, Ali. And yeah, I'm excited to discuss everything drone related to your
Okay.
audience.
Okay, cool. So I think one of the things that we should just start by talking about is there are so many drone insurance companies out there. Tell me what makes Skywatch stand out from the rest of them.
There are, and yeah, great opening question. So today, more and more jobs that used to work with just normal cameras. With today's technology, drones is becoming the main usage for photography and for content. So we're seeing an increased user base with this industry. Skywatch has been around for years since 2019. We're one of the pioneers in this industry, which again began very small back in the day. We are one of we are the top leading provider in the U.S. market today with a nearly perfect Google score, tons of organic reviews from our users. We are also very flexible with our plans, so that's a huge unique thing with Skywatch. You can purchase policies by the hour, by the month, or a
Mhm.
standard annual policy, and you can do all of this within minutes, both on our Skywatch app and through the web.
Yeah, 2019, it's interesting. I think you were one of the first companies that reached out to me. And I think, we've been talking ever since. But even before then, people said, what do I do about drone insurance? And it was like, maybe your homeowner's insurance company policy covers it. Like, I don't know. So it's nice to have an actual drone insurance plan. You mentioned your 5-star reviews. I don't know if you can share this, but how big is your customer base?
So overall, we've sold millions of policies,
Okay.
and regarding the active users, we're currently looking at thousands, between 5,000 to 6,000 active users. As you probably know, there are plenty of seasonal pilots
Yeah.
in the industry, so some of many of our users actually fly like for only specific periods,
Mhm.
which is perfectly fine. Skywatch is very flexible with that. I would say active users, we're talking between 5 to 6 thousand as
Yeah.
of today.
I love the people who do seasonal jobs where they're like, I only inspect roofs after snow, and that's it. That's all I specialize in. And I think something like Skywatch makes sense for that because that's just a short window of like a few weeks that you have that gig. So I think it makes sense, especially for those seasonal pilots.
Exactly, yeah, that's definitely a large portion of our pilots, people who come and go, and then there's thousands more of these people who just, whenever they need coverage, they come back and get additional policies.
Yeah. Now, it does seem, correct me if I'm wrong, but you focus on commercial drone insurance policies.
We do, yeah, so that's definitely our main focus. We are updating the program to support personal and hobbyist pilots in a more efficient way. This is something that's coming up very soon.
Interesting.
But yeah, our main book of business is commercial pilots, and that can range from pretty much anything from a single pilot doing like real estate photography to a huge fleet doing drone shows or very big production companies with a robust schedule of drones.
Yeah. And I think we should clarify whether you're a recreational pilot or a commercial pilot, you are not required by the FAA, at least in the US, to have drone insurance. That's something that I think a lot of people ask me about and don't realize. You're not required to have drone insurance. Now, what about other countries? Do you see people coming to you because they truly need drone insurance for a legal requirement?
Absolutely, yeah. So in today's industry, because again, this became a norm for usage, as opposed to a few years ago when
Hmm.
it was a bit more enigmatic, and then sometimes, like as a pilot, you would not legally require to present certificates.
Right.
I would say that 99% of the time today, our insureds do require to show their clients that they have insurance,
Yeah.
and uh, on top of this, most of the times the clients also require to be listed on the policy as an additional insured. So
Yeah.
with Skywatch, that's not a problem. You could easily add someone as an additional insured. There's no added fees in doing this, and this again, many times we see that our insureds purchase their policies in advance, even before they even secure the job. They're
Yeah, well,
required.
sometimes you need it to get the job.
Exactly, yeah. That's
Yeah,
very true.
even like completely unrelated, but I'm planning my wedding this summer, and it's like
Congrats.
they need, thank you, they need insurance for everything, and it's the venue requires it. It's like the caterer needs it, the musicians need it, and it's something that, yeah, like in many fields it's not a legal requirement, but the vendor will, or the site manager will not allow these people on site unless they have insurance. So of course it makes sense that often drone pilots are not allowed on the site by the property owner unless they have insurance. One thing that I do want to also talk about is I hear a lot of readers ask, oh, there's so many types of insurance. What do I need? There's liability insurance, there's equipment insurance. Do you offer both? And should people buy one or the other? How does that make sense?
We absolutely do, yeah. So the baseline coverage of a Skywatch policy is liability coverage. So this is mandatory coverage for any Skywatch policy. It covers
Mm,
the user for bodily injury and third party damage to property. So Skywatch policies offer this for a range of $500,000 and all the way up to $10 million. The more common options are $1 to $2 million. I'll give you an example. Someone who does like real estate footage or just generating content can usually start with $1 million.
mhm.
But our insureds who work in the film and media industry or ones who do like roofing jobs and like high valued properties usually would go for something between $2 to $5 million.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So that, like, what would that be in practice? If maybe I'm a real estate photographer, if somehow the drone crashes and hurts me, then that would cover my medical expenses. And then also, like, if it flies into a window and breaks the window of this fancy house, then it would also pay for the window costs of that house. Is that my understanding?
So the policy would cover third party bodily
Okay.
injury. There's also additional medical expenses that can be added on top of the baseline coverage. The Let's say for example the policy covers you for $2 million and there's a combination of bodily injury and property damage. The max liability limit that it was selected would cover you for both of those
Mhm.
incidents.
Okay.
I would
So
also
third
add,
party, if the drone crashes into, God forbid, somebody else, it would cover their medical expenses.
it would, yeah. So the policy would cover any third party's medical expenses. There's no deductible for third party liability coverage,
Mm-hmm.
so it would be the full amount up to the selected liability limits.
Mm-hmm. I am sort of curious how that all works in practice of what is the process of actually filing a claim. Let's say I have purchased Skywatch drone insurance and, God forbid, I crash my drone into the window of this expensive house that I'm photographing for a real estate project. What happens next?
Right. So yeah, that's definitely the money time in all insurance providers' experiences. So with Skywatch, we've got a designated claims portal where you can file the claim immediately after it happens. The turnaround can be as short as less than a week, which is very quick for
Mm-hmm.
insurance companies. That being said, some tips that for anyone listening, if you're planning to operate soon and purchase insurance, some things that will make the filing the claim takes a couple of minutes, but we do
Mm-hmm.
have some non-mandatory things that we ask for on the spot, and then we'll work with you in retrieving later on if you don't have them right away.
Mm.
The first would be any footage of the incident. So with drones, it's especially with DJI drones, but pretty much with any drone today, it's very easy to retrieve
Yeah.
the flight log.
Right, right,
And this gives us exactly what we need. Just like many vehicles today have a camera that can show the insurance provider exactly what
right.
happened, the flight logs give us this narrative, and then we can just take care of the rest very quickly. So that's one. Then any additional pictures of the damage, any witnesses, if we're talking about third party, all of this will be fillable while filing the claim. So if we get a claim that's fully, like everything's fully described, we'll be able to run with it and get it ready like within that week. Otherwise, one of our adjusters will work with the insured in retrieving all of these details. Sometimes this also requires availability from the insured. So those cases can sometimes take a bit longer, but still overall, it's a very quick process that usually takes less than a week to finalize.
Right, right. So that is interesting that you bring up, how many like photos and things that you need. As we mentioned again with the drone, you have the flight logs. The drone is probably recording the whole thing. Sometimes the drones have three cameras. They're definitely recording the whole
Yeah.
thing. But as far as, someone on site who crashes, is that a good best practice tip? Is if you crash and you think you're going to file a claim, don't just run away. Take photos on your iPhone of the rest of the scene. Is that something you would recommend people do?
That would definitely help. Yeah, the more information we have, the better. The main things we want, though, again, that's the good thing with drones is that the flight log
Okay.
gives us most of this anyway. But
Okay.
if the drone does crash it, like the drone itself is damaged and it is covered, then we would want a picture of the drone. And like you said, yeah, I would definitely, if we're talking about third party liability, I would definitely take pictures of the damage live.
Mm-hmm.
Also to protect yourself as the insured, to make
Mm.
sure that nothing else is added to the claim on top of what was done by the drone.
Mm-hmm. And then what are you doing with that flight log information once you get it?
So our system is able to decipher the log through a CSV file to see the first of all the time of the event as well as the latitude longitude to make sure that it adjusts with the address stated in the
Mm.
incident, and we can pretty much confirm that the claim indeed happened based on all of these parameters.
Mm-hmm. Are there reasons why someone, might do a poor job filing their claim and not get it approved? What sorts of tips do you have for people?
Great question. By far, most of our claims are approved. There have been cases where the insured mistakenly thought they had like specific coverage, which they didn't. For example, we'll discuss this in a bit, but hull coverage covering the drone itself for physical damage
Mm-hmm.
is purchased separately. So that's something I always like to clear out when
Mm-hmm.
talking to future insureds,
Okay.
making sure you know exactly what you're covered for. But to answer your question, there's no reason for an insured not to be covered when filing a claim, as long as all the details on their application is correct and they are properly covered for what they intended to be covered for.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay, so you mentioned whole coverage. So we should talk about what's different and when it makes sense for someone to buy that.
Right, exactly. So as we mentioned, liability coverage is the baseline of our policies. On top of this, on a monthly or annual policy, so the longer term ones, you can purchase hull coverage, which covers your drone itself for physical damage. Not just physical damage, this would also cover the drone for flyaways, losses, and also theft.
Mm-hmm.
So the additional premium in this case is based on the insured value of each drone. We cover drones up to 35 pounds, and you can also add additional payloads as long as it's a directly drone associated payload, like a
Mm-hmm.
camera, a sensor, anything drone related can also be added to the hull coverage. In this case, this by the way, speaking of claims, most of our claims are hull claims. Yeah,
Interesting.
our pilots are Part 107 certified, and they are trained. So also drones today have have smart systems that can prevent most physical, like bodily injury claims.
Right, right.
So luckily, luckily, we don't see a lot of people getting hurt, but
Yeah.
we are seeing a lot of drones getting damaged. So
That
that's
is good to hear. Yeah, so I am sort of curious, like, what is the most common sort of drone damage?
so I would say that by far the most is just the standard crash that someone flew in a windy area, in an area
Okay.
with a poor connection, maybe didn't see a branch coming, it hit a branch and the drone crashed into the ground.
Yeah.
So straight up physical damage. That's the number
Okay,
one.
okay.
And then we also have numerous claims with losses where drones, for example, flying over water. While the technology is improving, if you know, there's a situation where where many drones can sometimes misconcept water in the sky,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
when you try to land, it keeps going higher and higher until there's a flyaway, or vice versa. If you're trying to fly higher, the drone can just decide to land into the water and drown.
Right, right.
Yeah, so these are also common ones that we
Okay,
see.
okay. The last drone I've lost into the water was actually in 2013. It was an original Phantom.
Yeah.
So at least knock on wood, I'm doing pretty well on the water damage. um and I am sort of curious, there are many different types of ways that you can protect your equipment. So DJI has DJI Care Refresh. You might, especially if you have a homeowner's policy, your drone might be covered under that. Why does it make sense for someone to get whole coverage under SkyWatch as opposed to going for something like DJI Care Refresh?
That's totally correct. DJI Fresh does cover physical damage policies. I believe that there's a certain warranty time with DJI
Mm,
Care Fresh
right.
as opposed to Skywatch where you can continue this coverage as long as you need it. So that's
Mm,
one. There's also, I believe that unless they made any changes, the last time I looked over at it, DJI Fresh does not cover, for example, theft or
mm,
flyaways. So there's additional things that, at least for their standard package, so there's additional coverages that the Skywatch policy does offer. Regarding homeowners, that's pretty much the same. It depends on the exact provider, but usually
mm-hmm.
it won't cover everything, including flyaways and theft. And if you're flying commercially anyway and you do need liability coverage, which you will need in today's industry with your clients, then I do find it easier to have all your drone related coverages within one package with
Yeah.
Skywatch.
Yeah, that's interesting about theft. What does someone need to do if they're filing a claim that involves theft? Do they need to have a police report?
Great question. Yes, so we will require a police report for these types of claims. One of our adjusters can also work with the insured. So we've had many cases where the drone was stolen, like someone broke into someone's car and stole the drone. They filed
Mm-hmm.
the claim, and then we, even if they forgot to file it right away, it's possible to file it retroactively, and then we can process the rest of the claim.
Interesting. And I know with DJI Carefresh, they do require some sort of payment, so that way you have skin in the game. To get a replacement drone, you need to pay still a certain amount. Uh, is that the case with Skywatch?
It is, yes. So we mentioned it in liability coverage that there's no deductible. When there's a hull claim, there is a 10%
Okay.
deductible. So you do not need to invest any additional money into it. Instead, once you get the payment back, either through a check or a transfer, whatever the insurer prefers, you'll receive the amount minus the 10% deductible.
Interesting. Okay. So there is some skin in the game. I can't just like lose my drone because I have to have that police report, and there is that deductible involved.
Right.
Very interesting. Okay, cool. I think we should sort of pivot also into some of the other kind of logistics about how Skywatch works. Uh, Kind of maybe let's start with how someone actually goes about purchasing a plan. We already sort of dove into what someone does if they need to file a claim, but how do they get started actually purchasing the plan and deciding what makes sense for them?
Right. So that's another thing we're very well known for having a very seamless process to purchase insurance. So SkyWatch is available on the app. Like we've got an app mobile version, and then we also have the web version. The process to purchase insurance typically takes a couple of minutes. So I'll start with the web version for monthly and annual policies. You'd first want to select the number of drones that you operate. So we've got a unique plan where we've got categories. So you'll select whether you have 1 to 2 drones, 2 to 5 drones, or 6+ drones, and then you'll see a quote based on the number of drones that you operate. You'll then also select your liability limits, and if you'd like to add hull coverage to cover some of the drones, this will be done on the first page, meaning that within like a minute or two, you'll already see your quote before having to fill out the rest of your personal details. So before you proceed, you already know how much you're gonna pay, which I think makes it much more like reflective to our clients. We then have an additional page with the user's personal details, and then, as most insurance companies, we also have a declarations page requiring users to confirm they have a Part 107 that is up to date, for example, asking questions about their safety procedures. So we've got about 5 questions over there. Once this is completed and the user proceeds, they'll see a payment summary. They can also, by the way, modify, like going back to our seasonal users. You can set the policy to auto renew, or you can set it off if you only need like a single month's coverage, for example. All of this can be done while you purchase coverage. Additional insurance can also be added at any point while adding your policy, or you can do it later on. After you select the declarations, you'll see a payment summary, and your policy will be ready on the spot. So you'll receive an email with your documents, you'll receive a text where you can modify your policy right away if any changes are required. And again, the policy can be modified on the web and on the app version.
So it sounds pretty simple. I feel like there's some drone insurance companies where I'm like on the phone forever trying to figure out what's going on. But this seems like very simple to do. The other thing I wanted to ask is that there's many situations where you might buy an hourly plan and then you need to extend it. I'm doing a shoot that I thought was going to take 2 hours. Suddenly it's taking 4. Can I do that?
Of course, yeah. So for our on-demand hourly policies, there's one additional step, first of all, which is mapping out your flight zone. So our standard policies cover you in all U.S. territories, and they also extend worldwide, by the way, for anyone doing like any commercial photography overstay outside of the U.S. For on-demand, you'll need to map out your flight area, and then we've got 2 types of users usually. We've got the ones who plan in advance, and then like if they know they have like a 2-hour shoot next Wednesday, they'll book it in advance for that location. And then we've got people who go to the spot like live, open their app, and purchase their policy like a second before they operate. Either way is totally legitimate. Let's say though, with your question that you see that it's taking longer than you expected. So in that case, you can just open up your phone, open the SkyWatch app, and purchase a new hourly policy live for that moment. There's no lapse period. There's no like waiting period. So the moment you click confirm and purchase, you're fully good to go to continue flying while being insured.
Okay, nice and easy. I guess we should talk about pricing then. We've talked about buying a plan, so people want to know how much it costs. So I guess tell me how is drone insurance priced?
Right. So for our standard monthly policies with the most common liability limit, which is $1 million, policies start at $62 per month. On an annual policy, we're talking about $650. So the rates are a bit more competitive on an annual plan.
Yeah.
Hull coverage, if we're talking about like a standard DJI drone valued at around like 2,500, then we'd be looking at a monthly policy of around $78, $80.
Okay.
This again depends on the exact insured value selected by the user.
Right.
So this is for our common ones with like 1 or 2 drones. If we're talking about a more robust policy with like multiple drones, like a large drone schedule, it can be a few $1,000s. It can be a bit over $1,000. In this case, it already depends on the drone is being used and the size of the company.
Yeah. I'm so curious because drone values really fluctuate. I mean, old models become old models very fast. So what factors go into calculating the value of the drone?
Great question. So especially now with things that are going on with tariffs, for example,
Yeah,
it is
also that.
affecting. Yeah, that's a big elephant in the room. That's also already are seeing how it's affecting the industry. So we usually suggest it's up to the insured to select the insured value of their unit.
Okay.
We usually suggest to use the insured values that was originally paid for for the said unit
Okay.
to make sure that you're not undervaluing or overvaluing the. Even if you overvalue the drone, for example, first of all, it can increase your premium for no reason because
Right, right.
the added premium is based on the insured value of the drone. So
Mm-hmm.
so that's one thing, and also the deductible would be increased in that case because it's also based on the insured value. So what we
Mm-hmm.
suggest is if a drone is purchased, for example, for 2,500 after tax, using that amount
Right.
for
Okay.
the policy purchase.
Yeah, so it wouldn't make sense for someone to say, my Phantom One is worth, $1 million because then they're just paying a giant premium for it.
Right. Yeah. There would be very little benefit
Right.
in doing
Although
this.
I feel like my first Phantom One is worth $1 million. Just it's special to me. I'm like, that is the original drone, but not from an insurance value.
Yeah. I don't think our adjusters factor nostalgia into it,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Okay, that's good to know. You mentioned tariffs. Can we talk about that? That is the hot topic.
It is, yeah. So as many other things outside of drones, we are seeing increased pricing and lots of exported things in the U.S. So that
Mm-hmm.
also affects drones. This means mainly that in the event of a claim, you do want to. This can actually go two ways because fixing a drone usually would not be affected that heavily by tariffs. Like if you send your drone to a repair shop,
Mm-hmm.
so in that case, you could theoretically select the original. Like, let's say you purchased your drone a year ago and you insured it for the value back then. Then, if you're sending it to a repair shop on paper, you won't be affected. But
Mm-hmm.
if you were to purchase a new drone today, the prices will increase because of
Right.
these things. So
Absolutely.
that's also a thing to consider with even renewing a policy. If you insured your drone for an X amount, you could consider increasing the insured value on your renewal by like $200, $300, just to be on the safe side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Now, I'm always someone who loves a deal. Is there any way that people can get discounts, maybe by bundling, anything like that?
Yeah, so the main thing that we offer is we've got a lower annual rate. So if you're
Okay.
flying throughout the year, there's a couple of pluses to this. One is that many of our pilots book some of their gigs in advance. And then they can either you can schedule a monthly policy with SkyWatch. That's not a problem at all. But it's also nice to just be covered for the entire year and not having to deal with booking policies in advance. And on top of this, going back to your question, there's also a lower rate on our annual policies.
Mm-hmm.
So on average, you save around $70 by switching to an annual policy. When you add hull coverage and the bigger your business is, this can also stagger to hundreds of dollars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Okay, that's a good tip. All right, let's sort of pivot to talking to those Part 107, those enterprise users. I want to talk about what someone should know, particularly if they're a freelance drone pilot versus someone who is a big business who has multiple drones flying out and about. How should they approach drone insurance, maybe separately, one versus the other?
Right. So when in the general approach of things, I don't think there's a huge difference. I would first of all do some research about our insurance clients, their own book of business, seeing
Mm-hmm.
what the industry requires. So we are seeing trends again, going back to the beginning, that are like real estate, for example, usually requires no more than $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Larger companies like doing like large inspections, or again film and media, which is a huge one, should also do some research about what their clients and their production companies or venues are going to ask for. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing, like knowing your own industry and what's going to be required. Other than that, though, I don't think there's a very big difference. Once you go
Okay.
on the portal, on the SkyWatch portal, it's kind of gonna be a seamless process where like we'll guide you through it with our questions. Like we'll ask how many drones you're operating, which types of operations you do, and then you'll
Yeah.
see the relevant premium based on this.
Okay. I'm just curious, what kinds of industries do your clients work in? What's like the most common for you guys?
So real estate is a hugely
Okay.
common one. We also have lots of just like content providers, lots of influencers also using
Oh, okay.
drones. We've got lots of agricultural users. The policy, I will add, it does not cover drone spraying, especially
Mm.
if there's like a chemical drift. So that's something that
Mm.
the policy does exclude. Lots of constructions, serving. We've got drone shows, drone light shows. That's also those are policies that go through underwriting, of course, because it can cover hundreds of drones, but it is something
Okay.
that we cover. We've got rescue missions, military uses. So
So really everything.
pretty much everything. Yeah,
The
today drones.
range
Yeah,
between content creator and military is like very diverse, and then in the middle maybe you have the real, like the construction, the agriculture somewhere in there. It, what is different in terms of the needs of someone who is a drone content creator versus someone who maybe like works in construction, let's say?
good question. I would say for people that are flying like independently and like generating their own content, insurance will usually still be required for especially for the drone. In that case,
Mm-hmm.
it will be more common for people to cover the drone itself
Mm.
for those cases. But these types of insureds usually do not require to like generate a bunch of additional certificates and like endorsements, as opposed to larger businesses doing like more specific jobs, working with like different clients.
Mm-hmm.
These ones usually will reach out to us and be in touch with our agents much more, asking for specific verbiages on their endorsements, additional insurance documents. So I think that's the main thing. Just after buying the policy, the amount of time you devote into just generating different proofs of insurances to different stakeholders.
Mm-hmm. Now, Leo, let's talk drone light shows because that is a totally different animal, probably when it comes to insuring drones. You mentioned the underwriting that goes into that. There are hundreds of drones flying in the air at once. How does it work when insuring a drone light show?
Right, excellent question. So for drone light shows, this is not something that someone can. Like we talked about a seamless process because of the complexity of it. It's not something that one can purchase on the
Okay.
spot on the app or on our web. Instead, they would need to speak with one of our agents. We'll collect and send them a form with numerous questions about safety protocols, the experience all the pilots have, the drone models. We will then have our team of underwriting adjusters review the case and get back to the user with a designated quote for
Mm.
that specific usage. These policies are available on an annual policy just because of the complexity and the additional
Right,
risk.
right.
And yeah, this would be a SkyWatch policy generated directly through our underwriters because of
I
these
see.
additional risks.
And I imagine if a drone insurance company is trying to get one of these policies, they need to show to you that they have all of these safety standards in place. And I'm guessing probably the more robust their safety standards, the lower their costs will be for drone insurance.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I'd also add that specifically for light shows, on top of getting an ideal quote premium, it's also a matter many times of being approved for coverage or not, because these types of things have all these additional risks. You're flying above people also, so we're very
Hmm.
worried about
Yeah.
we're very cautious about people being like below like hundreds of drones. So many times, if you do not have the proper safety precautions, we would not even be able to provide a quote for these
Right.
types of businesses.
Yeah, yeah, that's an interesting point because it does seem like with a very simple content creator insurance policy that I can just get online, it seems like you'll insure basically anyone who pays the money, but that is not the case with drone light shows.
That's right. So even for content creators, we do have the initial declarations, which
Hmm.
they're like you said, they're very straightforward
Hmm.
questions when it comes to insurance, which takes like a few seconds to fill out. But yeah, for light shows, which again there's way more risk, also like bodily injury risk for
Hmm.
those
Yeah,
cases,
and
and that's
and we
where
see cases of there
we
was the
do.
drone
Yeah,
light show in Orlando that caused bodily injury to a spectator.
yeah. I also saw that instance. Yeah, where a couple of drones fell during the event. So yeah, these are the exact types of things we want to keep an eye out for
Hmm.
these types of policies.
Yeah, I just personally see so much more media out there about drone light shows. It seems like they're growing. I'm personally curious, are you getting more interest in terms of drone light shows that want to be covered?
Of course, yeah, as especially for example now that we're approaching the 4th of July, that's usually when we see the largest amounts in the US for such requests. So yeah, the industry is evolving in this, and I think it's great that the generally we're also starting to pivot from like fireworks and going to these types of performance events, and this also results in more businesses opening up to this and reaching out to us.
So will you insure those drones that have fireworks that launch off of them?
Oh no, that's a cool concept. I meant that that replacing fireworks, but on an underwriting perspective, I'm sure that a drone that fires fireworks would not be something that
Okay,
we'd
okay.
want to look at.
Those are becoming more common. I am
Oh
seeing those, and
really?
yes, I saw a drone show. I was actually on a cruise, and they had a drone show ahead of the cruise taking off, and there were fireworks that launched
Oh
from the
wow,
drones. Yeah, I know. That's the future. So look out for that.
good to know. Yeah, you taught me something new.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, speaking of, let's talk about the future. It seems like the drone industry is constantly evolving. I mean, we just mentioned fireworks off of drones. But how is the drone insurance industry specifically evolving?
So as an industry, the main thing we're seeing right now is just more and more people using drones for their works. Like the p- previously people who used it for film and media, like without a drone, for even for like very like not even for action sequences, for like very standard shots, we're seeing more and more people using drones. That's the
Mm-hmm.
main thing. Another good thing is that as the technology improves, we're also seeing more robust drones that are smarter and able
Mm-hmm.
to manage like battery life and safety hazards in a more efficient way, which is positively affecting claims, especially when talking about physical damage to a third party.
Mm-hmm.
Physical damage claims to the drone itself. That's something that's happened to, from our experience, even to the most experienced pilots. We've got insureds with us that have been with us for like multiple years, and even like the most experienced ones do have some hiccups every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
When you're flying your drone for that many hours, it's something that's bound to happen at
Right.
some certain point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. The other thing, especially top of mind in the US, is drone flights beyond visual line of sight. Everyone is talking about Part 108 these days. When is this regulation coming? But it seems like Part 108 is at least on the horizon, and that will make beyond visual line of sight drone flights more widespread. What does that mean for you from an insurance standpoint?
Right. So yeah, that's something a bit further in the horizon, but I agree that it is something that we're working on. So we currently one of our declaration questions when purchasing a policy, asks whether the insured will be flying beyond the line of sight. If so, and if they do not have the proper waivers, then coverage would not be
Mm,
allowed, and otherwise we would still require underwriting to go over the nature of operations because, like you said, it's still something that's fairly new in the industry. As like a part regarding Part 108 in the future, once this is solidified, I'm sure that we will adjust our program to support this in the relevant way, whether it will be with additional underwriting questions or maybe a designated portal to this. We're
mm-hmm,
kind of still waiting to see how things evolve, but
mm-hmm.
I am sure that it's something that's also going to come up in the
Yeah.
upcoming year or so.
Yeah. And, the regulations can be so difficult to keep up with. Of course, I always recommend you keep up with them by reading thedronegirl.com. But for a lot of drone pilots out there, it can be tough to know because it does often seem like these regulations change. Is there anything that you are doing on your end at SkyWatch to also keep customers in the loop?
Well, our FAQ page and our Skywatch articles are updated with new FAA regulations and updates. So that's one thing that we actively update to keep our users informed. We also though have a very designated team of
Mm,
support agents where we get lots of calls and emails about these types of questions. So if you're flying your drone, even if you do not have an active Skywatch policy, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. We're very well known for our support service,
yeah.
and we're more than happy to discuss all of these changes with you.
Yeah. I'm going to call them to get some help for my articles. When I'm writing them, sometimes I'm like, wait, this used to be the rule and now it's not and it's changing. So it's good that you have real people on staff who can help with that. Because it's funny because Skywatch is so digital and it can easily sign up online, but there is still that human touch there.
Absolutely.
And then I'm sort of curious. We talked about what's on the horizon in terms of policies and regulation. What's on the horizon in terms of Skywatch specifically for you as a company?
So for us, yeah, we're looking at an exciting time. We just recently relaunched our Skywatch app, so
Okay.
which was around for about 5 years. So there's a brand new UX UI to it. We're also working on, again, as the industry grows, we're working on adjusting our program appetite to cover larger businesses.
Mm.
So, for example, we now have a portal supporting 6 and above drones. That's something that used to
Mm.
require, like you said at the beginning, that lots of insurance providers require a lot of times like on the phone with an agent. So we also automated this to make it a seamless process. And as long as the industry evolves, we're evolving with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you as a product guy are probably the one developing all of that.
Yeah, I'm definitely keeping it very busy these days.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. I am sort of curious, are there any lesser known features about Skywatch that you wish customers knew about?
Some lesser known ones. Let's think. We have a lot of self services. That's one
Okay.
thing that when you purchase a policy, you'll also get a text message as a new user notifying you about the self services and sending you a link to your policy management. But a lot of people don't know that if they're like on the spot and need to like their venue is asking them to be listed as an additional insured,
Mm,
or
mm-hmm.
even asking them, oh, you've got $2 million, you actually need $5 million for
Mm,
this shirt because of the high risk. These are things that you can actually do as a self-service by either going on the app or the web, even like using your mobile on the web.
mm-hmm.
You can update, you can add and remove additional insureds. You can also update your liability limits within a second. You'll see a quote, and within like a matter of a minute, you'll get a new certificate of
Right.
insurance with your updated coverage details. So
Okay,
that's one
cool.
thing that we're more than happy to support these types of things. But if it happens in the evening, for example, or something that needs to be done on the spot within seconds, this is a cool set of tools that all of our insureds have and are always available for them.
Interesting. Maybe not necessarily specific to Skywatch, but what is something that you wish the drone industry knew about drone insurance? Either some misconception or just something that you wish you could tell them?
Great question. So one thing we touched base on it at the beginning. Unfortunately, these are the cases I hate the most, where someone files a claim and they assumed that the drone was covered for physical damage. So I would recommend when purchasing coverage for the first time to really read between the lines. The quote does state that physical damage is not covered unless added, but I would go
Mm,
through every single additional coverage options while purchasing and making sure, okay, do I have everything I need? Do I need this? Do I need this?
mm.
If you go over through the purchase flow and review every single available option, this can usually help you make up your mind and kind of create a checklist for you of the things that you need.
Yeah, it sounds like so a lot of people purchase liability insurance and assume that it has full coverage and they don't realize that that's separate.
Luckily, not too many, but we
Okay.
still, even if it happens every couple of months,
Right,
it's still
right.
for us. It's just unfortunate that we can't help out because
Yeah, it's like
we
I
do want
wish
to
you
cover these
knew.
people. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. Any other, common misconceptions about drone insurance that you frequently come across?
Another one that I'd bring up is going back to what you said at the beginning that like drone insurance is not mandatory. So in today's industry, 99% of the clients will ask for this,
Mm.
and sometimes you think you're about to start a job and to get a paycheck for it, and then they're like, oh wait, you don't have drone insurance. Please make sure you set it up. And then sometimes depending on the type of operations, it can take longer than expected unless you really comply with all the like, FAA regulations.
Mm-hmm.
So also just generally, if you know you're about to to do an operation to get your peace of mind in advance, book a policy. You can book a Skywatch policy up to 2 months prior. Make
Mm.
sure you're properly covered. Even speak with us before, making sure everything's good to go in advance and prior to when you're about to launch your drone.
Mm-hmm. That's great advice. Thank you so much for joining us here on The Drone Girl. We are here talking drone insurance. I am here with Leo Arnan. He is with Skywatch. Is there anything else that you want to tell Drone Girl readers, Drone Girl listeners, since they're tuning into this about drone insurance?
So again, our we've got a team of support agents who are more than happy to go over any types of questions. So feel free. You can even email us at support@skywatch.ai. Anything regarding the industry, any like safety precautions that you want to disclose with us, we're more than happy to hear you out.
And they can find you at your website at skywatch.ai. That email for support is support@skywatch.ai. Any other ways that people can get in touch with you guys?
We've got a landline. So there's a contact page on our app and on the web mobile where you can just give us a call whenever you want. Our team's available from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time Zone.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. I learned a lot about drone insurance. I hope you listeners out there did as well. Thanks for tuning in. Check out skywatch.ai and, of course, happy flying.